Hello, everybody. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about Gate 20. And so I want to start with this gate by just kind of naming a few things. First of all, um, this is a pretty important gate in my own design. It's one that I have sat with and contemplated quite a bit because actually it's the pearl in my pearl sequence. If you've looked at Richard Rudd's work as he's worked through the three different sequences in the hologenetic profile, then this, for me, this is kind of the heart of who I return home to. So I spent quite a bit of time with this little gate right here. And I think it's a really important gate for everyone because it's kind of this underlying theme to all things in the whole chart, in the whole gate, in the whole I Ching. And so I want to start by just kind of going back a little bit. And I want to talk about the 64 gates and why we talk about all 64 gates, because the I Ching is one of the most ancient spiritual texts that we know of. And it really speaks to our ability to bridge the gap between being human, having a human experience, and being a spiritual being, having a higher expression of who we're here to be, and then how we are meant to express that, how we are meant to move through the challenges so that we can express that higher expression. So if you've looked at any of Richard Rudd's work and you see that we have the shadow expression, we have a gift expression, and we have the Siddhic state, then the understanding there is that the shadow exists simultaneous to the Siddhic state. They're not separate, right? They're one thing, and that the gift is the way that we work through the shadow to express ourselves at the Siddhic state. And it is a book about becoming. It's a book about, it's the book of changes, right? It's the book of it's a way of moving through the world. In Taoist tradition, it's the way of the Tao, right? And so, and there's 64 ways in which we can express ourselves at our highest expression. And then we all have a piece of that puzzle. We're all, there's no such thing as separation, right? So we're all a piece of the puzzle. We're all bringing our own beingness into relationship with the I Ching, and we're healing our piece of the puzzle, our fractal component of the whole. And so it's really interesting when we look at sacred geometry, when we look at the history, and now the sacred geometry that I'm going to talk about, this flower of life, the concept of the flower of life, we currently have this incredible science that is starting to, and mathematics of quantum physics, that are beginning to define this relationship between this ancient wisdom and our current ability to understand it scientifically and mathematically, which has always been the journey with science, right? Is to understand, to like research, to observe, and to go deep and to understand it. And so we've had this movement of quantum physics for quite some time, over 100 years. But we're beginning to have, in really the last 10 years, we've seen major advancements that bring some of these theories about how our universe works and about how spirituality works and about how our ability to remote heal and our connectedness. We now can see that. We see it in the mathematics of sacred the mathematics of quantum physics are proving sacred geometry, right? That's what, not that those things didn't exist already, but now for those quizzical minds like me, we now have this mathematics that says actually this very basic understanding that this is the geometry, the mathematics of the universe is true, and everything is built on that. And so I say that because in some ways the I Ching was connected to that. It understood that without having to do all of the modern science. There is the whole theory of the universe is laid out in those 64 in the geometry. And so if we look at the geometry of the I Ching, then what we begin to see is the flower of life, sacred geometry, this pattern, this emergence. And that is um, a holographic model, meaning that within every cell of my body, I hold the potential of the universe. Within the acorn seed is the potential of the whole tree. Within the sacred geometry of the flower of life is the entirety of the cosmos as we understand it and beyond, right? So, and I realize that's kind of like deep theory for this moment, but it's important to this gate, because this gate is this gate that is really about the center of that, the center of that being presence, the center. So the gate itself is in the I Ching is called contemplation. In human design, it's the gate of the now. In Gene Keys, it's the sacred Om, the center, the presence. And then in quantum human design, it's the gate of patience. And so from a perspective of the Gene Keys and the I Ching, which you guys know tends to be the place where I enter, and then we always kind of move towards that quantum human design perspective. This gate really is a very simple gate. It's hard in practice, like most things are, but what it asks of us is fairly simple, and that is to be present, to be at the citic state. It is that there is only presence. There is only one presence. There is only one universal energy. And all of that is connected. And I am a piece of that bigger puzzle. And at its gift state in the Gene Keys, he talks about it being, kind of self-assured. It's that place where the balancing of my human experience and my observer. Richard Rudd talks a lot about contemplation, and that's as a practice of achieving the ideal of the I Ching, recognizing that is perfect right now. Where I am right now is perfect, and that I'm always growing and expanding and contracting and having experiences and growing and expanding. That is how the universe functions. That's kind of why I was talking about quantum theory, is that there's this constant expansion and contraction energy, this inner reality, this outer reality, and the ways that those things are connected, all of the wormholes between me and the rest of my existence. And so this gate asks us to really begin to cultivate a life that is incredibly present. That's what mindfulness comes from. When we talk about resiliency, when I talk about neurology, I talk about brain integration, I talk about all these things that I was here to talk about, that I was put here to talk about. All of those things give us access to creating this fluid energy between who I am, this being that is infinite and part of this greater whole, and my current perception through this filter, through this body, through these eyes, through this brain, my contemplations of my wholeness, my divinity in this present human moment, right? So it's like when I'm really centered, I show up in my heart space, and we'll talk about this gate and its connections in a minute, but I'm literally designed, and everyone is designed to move through the world from this very present, very mindful place. In that space, I'm taken back by the wonders of the universe. I'm moving slow. I'm calm. When someone is really in their center, in the IFS, in the internal family systems, we talk a lot about parts. And we know that one of the characteristics of someone being in their heart center is for them to be very calm and clear and confident, so self-assured, right? And so when we're really moving with this gate, when we're really amplifying this gate, it's about simplicity. It's about releasing the need to have judgment of things being right or wrong or this way or that way, and being our observer, being in relationship with the bigger picture, the awareness that it takes for us to move beyond our wounds or our story, our victimhood, our the way that we see things, right? This gate asks us to be very curious and very centered, And really it's a gate of trust, right? It's a trusting that I have a divine purpose, that I'm here in service of my divine purpose. And that from that place, from that presence, that's the one and only presence in my life, is the presence of that universal energy of love, that source energy. It's to be sourced, to know that that is where healing comes from, is that connection to source energy, which is this energy that connects all things. In religion, we might give it terms like God and other terms. In spirituality, we might call it source, we might call it universal field, we might call it love. Or in science, we might call it the dark field, the 0 point energy, or the dark matter that is, 99.9% of our cosmos is dark matter, right? So it's like there's lots of ways in which we might relate to this energy, but it is through that relationship that we are meant to experience all 64 gates of the I Ching. And so from a human design perspective, this gate was called the now. It's the now. It's the only thing. It's presence. It's the only reality, right? When we talk about mindfulness, and that the only thing that is true is the now, right? And this is that gate. It's like every emotion or mental experience that I might have is not in the now. The now is singular and also holographic of the whole. I know that's kind of a hard mind-bending moment, like, to kind of take all of that in, but it's really important that we remember that we are not our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions. They are that just those things, right? We are also this presence, this connection to a wholeness that allows us to experience the world in thoughts and emotions and feelings, and have a relationship between this physical world and the people and the things and what we're here to do. But it's in relationship, right? We are the both and. We are both a spiritual being having a human experience. And that's really what this gate wants to remind us of, that when we forget. So it's the gate of presence is really about bringing your awareness back. When we talk about the skill set of meditation, it's not that you just quiet your mind to begin with. I know if you followed me a little bit, you've heard me say that before. It's not just about like, am I able to get my mind quiet? It's the practice of returning to the quiet. It's the practice of returning to the breath, returning to the heart, returning to the presence of the now. And as you practice more and more, it's easier to stay there for longer periods of time, but not always, because it is to be human to lose our awareness and then to return to that awareness, to lose our presence and then return to that presence. And that's what this gate is really about. It's contemplating how much of your life are you moving through the world in a place where you're kind of absent from. You're kind of living at this very superficial level of who you are, versus, am I moving through the world with that kind of presence, that kind of awareness, that kind of awe and wonder for what we are here to be and do? Am I learning and growing and expanding my capacity to share my source, to share my heart space? And when we look at this gate in relationship to the centers, it's a throat gate, which, remember, all energy in human design is moving towards the throat so that we can express ourselves at our highest being. This particular gate, this gate of the now, reaches towards the splenic center, which is our gate of our center of intuition and trust, right? And on shadow side, it can be all of the fear. It also reaches to the sacral energy, so that the power of having the vitality and the energy to do and to move forward. And then it reaches towards the G center. So it's this gate that has these it talks to three different centers. And it's about timing. It's about instinct. It's about trust. It's about saying, when we look at the elements, it's really about saying that I trust that the presence in my life, it's from the presence of my life, from my connection to source, that I will know and be able to do and be able to be who I'm here to be able to express that fully. And so we get caught up in trying to fix our lives externally. We look outward for the answers. We look outward for the healing. We look outward for whatever it is, right? We tend to look outward, and that's been a byproduct of the scientific revolution. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the human experience. And this gate calls us back. It calls us back into the remembering that the world isn't just what we see and feel and touch. It's actually only 1% of the entire cosmos is what we can see and feel and touch. It's the rest of it is our trust in this presence and this inner knowing, this inner alignment, our ability to sit in that and be not, and when I say sit, I don't mean literally on a mountaintop in quiet time, because we are meant to be in relationship with the world around us. We're meant to have a yogic practice, or the practice of yoga is the practice of becoming, it's not just on the mat, right? Like there's all these different yogic traditions, and this one is about the ability to stay present to everything, to every moment, to every challenge, to every beautiful joy, right? It's like, it's not about trying not to have one so that I can have the other. It's about literally, how do I live my divine essence in every moment of my life, in every relationship, every time I clean a dish, to every time I get to talk to a large group and bring these concepts and what I'm here to bring to the world to a large group, right? It's in every moment. It's kind of like that, like church on Sunday, kind of like I go to church on Sunday and then I kind of forget my divinity throughout the week. And then I go to church on Sunday, right? That kind of joking energy about it. But really this gate is reminding us, like, we're going to have that. We're going to have these moments of clarity and calmness and connection. And then we're going to lose it, right? Because that's to be human. We're going to get caught up in the minutia of the physicality of our lives. And then we're going to remember again. And it's the process. That's the process of meditation. And in a hologram, it's the process of our spiritual well-being and our ability to become the highest expression of who we are. So that is the breakdown. I think that's enough for y'all for this one. And I recognize that sometimes we go a little more into theory and sometimes it's a little easier, but the too long didn't read here at the end, because that's really helpful. But the too long didn't read is like, how often in my life am I really in the present moment? Am I really with what's happening right now as the observer and the participant, right? Which brings us to that. I should end with the quantum human design gate. So Karen Curry Parker talks about this being a gate of the patience, the knowing what we need to know, when we need to know it, how to act when it's time to express ourselves, and holding that bigger perspective, right? Like holding the bigger, knowing something, and maybe it's not time to act, maybe it's not time to speak, maybe it's not time to do something with that, but not letting it go either, holding it in contemplation, holding it in trust and divine timing, and knowing that all of those things will come together to help us. The more present we are to our lives, the more centered we are in the heart space, the more we can just surrender. There's a lot of surrender in this gate, surrender to the intimate and innate knowledge of our physical body, of our heart space, of our emotions. So, okay, I think that's enough. I think you guys can handle all of that. And yeah, subscribe, leave me comments, let me know how that's going, because, just the easy stuff, full self-expression, no big deal. All right, I'll see you soon.